Damn, I love that intro. And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, everybody? Gene Berardelli here with you. The gang is all here, but I did a little homework and I did some intros for people. So let's bring in my partner in crime, Ross Galloway, right now.
Yeah. Is this moron number one? Put moron number two on the phone.
Yeah, Jimmy, he's right here. Hold on.
Hey there, how you doing, pal?
Brilliant. That's a classic in our lives. I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, we used to use that when we were just doing the radio stuff, and now we've moved on to the video. So let's do it, right?
So fucking funny. And for the record, Gene is moron number one. I'm his trusty sidekick.
Yes, you are the shit. You're moron number two, baby. Speaking of Rick Robinson, let's bring him in now.
So I want to thank you all for being here. And now, who am I introducing next? Who's next?
That would be
Rick
me.
Robinson. Hey, what were you doing when you popped in before and you were talking to other people, not listening to us?
That's because I was getting ready to pop over to your show, but I was still running buttons for Gene at the same time. So,
oh, okay. Apparently, there's more than one Gene in his life.
So Gene, you just let anybody onto the show? Did we check this guy's ID, his birth certificate?
Oh.
I want to verify.
Wow, you're bringing in the topic already. We're going to be talking about voter ID when the show kicks off, but before we get to all the fun and shenanigans of that stuff, I just want to remind you guys to, hey, check us out, like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff that you do for every other channel you visit. We certainly appreciate and love all the support we get here. We're going to be talking about the SAVE Act, the Save America Act, voter ID, and all the hubbub surrounding it. Listen, guys, this is my wheelhouse. I've been a proponent of voter ID since at least 2013. And when I first wrote about it, I was advocating for it as part of the City Bar Association and the People's Republic of New York City. Obviously, it went nowhere, but voter ID to me has been an issue that I've been very passionate about. So I'm really looking forward to this discussion.
Gene, coincidentally, Gene was also a Patriots fan before Tom Brady joined the team.
I will not allow any slander on this show. I have been and always shall be a New York Giants fan. All right, 44-6 in the trap, baby. We're coming for it all next year. I'm telling you right now.
I was half afraid he was going to say Jets for a second there. I was going to let him know about JD's support group for Jets fans.
Oh God, Jets fans need it, especially after this year. My goodness. Hey, Galloway, what is this acronym in your screen name?
That stands for Nothing Can Stop What Is Coming. Buckle up, boys. Nothing can stop it.
Oh boy, so you're one of those
if
tonight.
You know.
You should have put that in there too, off to the side. I like hey, that way it's all in there.
That's not a bad idea, actually.
Well, you can always fix it while I'm going to do a little bit of a monologue here, guys. I want to frame the issue going forward. So what you're seeing on the screen right now, ladies and gentlemen, everybody in between, is a caricature portraying Boss Tweed from the People's Republic of New York City, a Republican, by the way. On the bottom, you may see there's a quote there from Boss Tweed, William Boss Tweed from 1871. That says, "As long as I count the votes, what are you going to do about it? Say, history shows that for as long as the right to vote has existed, that right has been threatened." This caricature by Thomas Nast, one of the great American caricaturists, portraying Boss Tweed leaning against a pedestal on which stands the ballot, symbolizes a dark time in late 19th century America where the playing field of politics was leveraged by party bosses and machine politics at the expense of you, the voters. Tammany Hall era potential benefits. Fast forward to present day, and election integrity remains a contemporary concern. Specifically, a trend towards voter identification has been going on for at least the past 12 to 15 years. Even I've seen videos going back to 1987 with Mitch McConnell talking about it, for God's sakes. But what should be a debate about preserving the integrity of our electoral system has been hijacked by the politics of division. Now, last I checked, 34 states have adopted some kind of voter ID law, and back when I checked was over 10 years ago. It's probably more now, with some very different variations. States have what they call strict voter ID laws. Voters cast a ballot, but voters cannot cast a ballot without first presenting an ID. If they cannot, they're given a provisional ballot that are kept from the regular ballots. And if the voter returns and shows an ID a couple days later, their vote will be counted. Other states have what's called non-strict voter ID laws. Provisions of this are states where voters are permitted to sign an affidavit attesting to their identity, and poll workers may vouch for that voter's identity if they know him or her. Then you have the debate between photo ID and non-photo ID, which is pretty self-explanatory. I want to read one more quote, and then we're going to get the discussion started here about the Save America Act. This is a quote from an American University bipartisan commission on federal election reform that was chaired by Democrat Jimmy Carter and Republican James Baker. Quote, "The electoral system cannot inspire public confidence if no safeguards exist to deter or detect fraud or to confirm, I should say, the identity of voters. Photo IDs currently are needed to board a plane, enter federal buildings, and cash a check. Voting is equally important." And with that, gentlemen, I'll open up the floor to you guys, and let's talk voter ID. Ross, is there anything I said that you disagree with?
No, of course not. And like, I'm waiting for the chat to build up a little bit here because I want to hear from our normal losers. Like, what is the argument against voter ID now? I have a couple of them written down here. I can't wait for them to be brought up. But of course, there's nothing wrong with what you just said. You can't go to the DNC convention without an ID, right? For the party that doesn't believe in IDs or borders, like, they certainly use it at their own events, right? That's them. Now, I want to hear from the useful idiots in the chat. Come on, guys.
Oh,
Tell
they'll
us
be
why
around.
voter ID is wrong.
I'm sure they'll be around soon. Go ahead,
be.
Rick. Rick, your opening statement for us, if you would, please, sir.
So two things. When the first time I ever had a team go to the Republican National Convention, they had to pass an FBI background check before they were given press credentials. Second thing I would like to point out is all the Democrats in Congress that are saying voter ID is racist and sexist have to insert a photo ID to be able to vote in the machines they use to tabulate their votes. So they're being retarded. My final thought for the moment is it's funny how they've changed all this to sexism, and now you have the awfuls, you know, the same group that 30 years ago, 40 years ago, let me do the math better, probably closer to 50 years ago, we're singing everything you can do, I can do better. It's now everything you can do, I can do better, except for getting ID. Can't do that. What the hell?
Crazy. Absolutely crazy.
Hold on, don't go to the next thing yet. I was going to save some of this, but let me just touch on, since he brought it up, and Rick is spot on here, right? I love how it went from voter ID is racist because black people are too dumb to get IDs to now it is sexist because women are too dumb to get IDs. First of all, it's married women, right? Not too many libs get married on their side. They're mostly green-haired lesbians, right? Let's just be real, and trans, right? So they're not getting married and change it. And the ones that do get married rarely change their last name. So I'm pretty sure conservative women don't need the Democrats to stick up for them on this one. And then, second of all, this is my own personal opinion. I'm a fan of repealing the 19th Amendment and not letting women vote at all anyway, to begin with, right? So, the harder it is for them to vote, I don't really care. More than 50% of them vote for Democrat, and that's probably why the Democrats are worried about this, to be honest.
Well, Daisy Freedom Fighter says that the Democratic Party is over, and I think that remains to be seen. I'm debating hat or no hat. I think I'm going no hat because you guys are going hat. I want to be the nonconformist of the group.
Of course, you're always the nonconformist. But can you maybe have Wardrobe get a little powder on that forehead of yours? This kind of got a little glare going on, please.
Wait. Okay, for those of you watching the horizontal view and maybe see Chuck Schumer's chin right below me. Hang on a second. We were doing this before. That's for you. Okay. So one of the main proponents of the Save America Act is Senator Mike Lee of Utah. And I'm going to let him frame the debate here.
Lee joins me now. Senator Lee, you are on this. Every day you have been on this, and I've watched you aggregate 50 co-sponsors for the Save America Act. So now the question is, when does this get a vote?
We need a vote as soon as possible, Kayleigh, because the American people demand elections that are secure. Right now, they're not. Look at what's happened. Over the last 4 out of the last 5 years, we had an estimated 10 to 15 million people come into this country illegally. Meanwhile, we've got a law called the NVRA that makes it far too easy, especially as it's been interpreted in recent years by the courts, far too easy for people to just go in, apply for a driver's license. You can do that as a non-citizen in almost every state, check a box, sign your name, and with no additional identification required, and not even allowed under the court's interpretation of the NVRA. States aren't even allowed to ask to verify citizenship. And so,
by the way, what he's talking about is the National Voter Registration Act, also known as the Motor Voter Law, that was adopted federally, where states can combine the process of getting your driver's license or getting your non-driver ID and registering for you to vote. Wanted to grab this chat from Gary McDonald 769. Welcome to the show. Hope you are liking, sharing, subscribing, and all that. I live in what you determine as a very liberal state in Washington. You poor bastard. You're like me in the People's Republic of New York. And we have voter ID. It's just another diversion from the reality that the economy stinks. Now, Democrats are making that argument, by the way, that this whole Save America Act is a distraction from the Epstein files. It's a distraction from the economy. It's a distraction from everything bad about Donald Trump. I just want to go to another clip. I'm going to go to another clip, but first, Ross, Senator Lee was basically outlining a scheme whereby there is little to no verification by states who choose not to verify to just register mass of people to vote.
Yes, let me touch on that. I'm just going to jump to the distraction piece you mentioned, or the comment mentioned.
Sure.
So yeah, it is what the distraction is not necessarily from the economy. They want the Republicans to do the standing filibuster or the speaking filibuster where they have to grind the Senate to a halt and accomplish nothing else. Now, it's not like the Senate is passing lots of laws, because they're not, right? I think they passed 2 substantive bills since Donald Trump has been president for the second time. What they want to do is gum up the works to stop him from appointing any more federal judges. That is the last section of the government that the left fully dominates, is that the district and circuit court federal judges. Now, going back to what Senator Lee was talking about, you have the motor voter registration, like you said. The problem is, right, like in states like New York, you can get a driver's license actually without providing a first name, let alone whether or not they know you're a citizen, right? You can get a driver's license from states like New York. Then you could also register to vote, and the only piece of information you provide when you register is the last 4 digits of your supposed social security number, right? There is no, people think that the DMV coordinates with the Board of Elections and they actually verify if you're a citizen. They do not. You sign an attestation on the bottom under a penalty of perjury stating that you are in fact a citizen and authorized to vote, and no one checks, right? The Democrats know what's coming. They are going to be exposed. It's not few and far between. I say there are upwards of hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people illegally on the voter rolls in this country. Prove me wrong.
Rick, I want to get your reaction to this comment from Nicole. 3 forms of ID, piece of mail, prove you are from here, birth certificate, driver's license, etc. Is there anything about the Save America Act and the ID requirement that concerns you?
No, because to go back to the person from Washington who pointed out that they have voter ID, the problem is a lot of states have voter IDs, but they don't, like Ross was pointing out a second ago, they don't make you verify that you are a citizen. There's a little box that you check that says, I affirm that I am a U.S. citizen and I do this under penalty of perjury. And then nobody ever gets charged with perjury when they find out that they lied. So nobody cares. So it's not about the ID portion. It's about the being able to verify that you are an actual citizen to make sure that you are allowed to have access to our federal elections, which does unfortunately require additional forms of identification, such as birth certificate, passport. But all this idea that it's a poll tax and that it violates this amendment and that amendment, if you are an adult in this country and you already don't have the documentation that you need to verify that you are who you say you are, then you're not actually an adult and you need to learn how to be one.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in a second as well. I just want to get this comment from Daisy. I went to the DMV and they changed my party to Dem in 2018. And then, I'm assuming it's 2019, not 2029, unless you are from the future. The Dems want my mom, who passed away in 2018, damn, that sucks, to vote in 2020. Yeah, I mean, these are some of the dirty tricks that people play. Now, I want to get to what Rick was saying about having ID. And I want to talk to also to the point about what Galloway was talking about here. Ross, I don't know if you remember this, but back when you and I were working in politics in the People's Republic of New York, Project Veritas and James O'Keefe undertook an undercover project where voters surreptitiously filmed encounters on Election Day that they claimed the need for voter ID. And also the election, there was I think it was a conflict of interest board tried to do a mock registration where they tried to put in phony people, dead people who were fictitious to register the vote to see how many ballots would be caught. And I think it was 51 out of 54 of those fake registration applications got through the system. So when people talk about voter ID being needed for fraud and fraud happens so infrequently, I think people don't realize that nobody really investigates for voter ID because there has to be some indicia that something's going wrong. But the way that the registration process works, at least that we know of, it's just pro forma. You fill out the form, you attest, and then you move on, and nobody bats an eye about it. And there's no investigation because nobody's prompted to do an investigation.
And who would do it, right? The federal government doesn't do it. The states, there's no incentive for a blue state to investigate voter fraud if the elections are turning out the way they want them to. Those investigations are very time consuming and they're difficult to do, right? I have to prove that you actually voted. I have to prove that you knew you weren't a citizen. I have to prove that you were the one that actually registered and the one that actually cast a vote, right? It's very difficult to prove. Unlike the Epstein files where everyone's just guilty because their name was mentioned, to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that somebody cast an illegal vote in an election, you need evidence, real evidence, not just a vote was cast, that person that you're arresting was the one that did it. How do you do that?
And by the way, let me correct myself. It was the New York State Department of Investigation that did a sting where poll workers were offered to hand imposters ballots so that they could vote. None of those imposters voted, but again, it was 51 out of 54 imposters that showed up and they were given ballots. Rick, one thing I want to talk to you about, because I think you mentioned, it's not really hard to get an ID. I've seen many studies on this. One particular study from American University surveyed voters in Maryland, Indiana, and Mississippi, a nice cross-section of different regions of the country, different economic stances. And they found that less than 0.5% of respondents had neither a photo ID nor citizenship documentation. Not 5%, 0.5%. Nothing shocking there, but yet Democrats want to argue that there are so many people out there that are so disadvantaged that they don't have citizenship documentation or even a photo ID. It's crazy.
Well, does that really surprise you when they want 0.3% of the population to run the entire country?
Okay, point blank and period, you got it.
And Gene, when they throw the poll tax, which is hilarious, right? What's stopping states from issuing free IDs or free copies of birth certificates to get people to comply with the federal law? What's stopping that?
How about this? You have Motor Voter, right? You have access to the DMV database, right? Create a postcard. Put their identification photo on it. You can mail it right to the voter, rip it off, and bring it with you to the ballot. It's crazy. Meanwhile, I want to. Here come the trolls, baby. I love it. Yes. Dear God, says eDogDog. Great name, by the way. Hope you guys are subscribing. Hope you're liking. Hope you're sharing this video with your friends and all that good stuff. We want to get as many people in live stream as possible. Please give MAGA the strength to not whine about something for one day. Just 24 hours of peace. Oh, Lord. Amen. First of all, shocked that you're praying because you are complaining about MAGA. But you are echoing, he or she, eDogDog, you are echoing the sentiments expressed on CNN recently that I have so many clips in here, it's ridiculous. Here it is. You're echoing this buffoon.
spend time talking about this for the next 6 months?
I think election integrity is critically important to talk
But
about.
like,
And right
I'm
now-
being serious. Like economy,
Yes.
Venezuela, Iran. Like, do Republicans want to spend their time on this as they're literally getting booed at events over ICE?
Yes, they should spend their time on this. The president came out yesterday, emphatically endorsed the Save America Act, which is sponsored by Senator Mike Lee and Chip Roy. That is a key priority for them right now. And I think that they will spend time on it, Audie, because we know we have a situation in this country where election integrity, whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, depending on who wins or loses an election, you have doubts about the outcome.
So thanks for being the meme there, E-Dog Dog. We really appreciate that. And it turns out, Ross, that voters actually do care about voter ID, as seen on all places on CNN, where it was revealed, and this number's been getting around everywhere, 83% of Americans are in favor of photo ID, broken down 95% of Republicans and 71% of Democrats.
And we've joked around about these stats in the past about other issues, but this is literally the 80-20 issue, right? The definition of one.
This is the definition of one.
I mean, if the Democrats, and not the Democrats, I'm sorry, because I confuse the parties sometimes because they're so alike. If the Republicans don't actually stick to their guns on this one and, go down to the mat on this fight, then there is no point of the Republican Party. Like I keep saying, right? They will lose the midterms if they don't fight this fight specifically, right? They allowed the Democrats to shut the government or a partial shutdown again, right? So if we're not going to fight for this, for the very survival of the Republic, then what are we going to fight for?
Absolutely. Folks, start smashing that thumbs up button. Let people know you're here. Get into the chat with us. These are all ways to help grow, not only grow the channel, but to bring more of your allies into the discussion. So all you haters out there, hit that thumbs up. Let people know you're here. You can bring them in. People that like us, do the same thing. We can get more comments like this from the Poop Guy. Awesome name. Just an awesome name. The hilarious thing is the majority of Republicans don't have passports, which you would need under the stupid act, LOL. You don't necessarily need a passport. You just need to show proof of citizenship. You can show, and by the way, this is for people that are going to be registering going forward. That would be a birth certificate.
And Gene, by the way, that's an important distinction, right? You don't need to bring your birth certificate to the voting booth. You need to prove your citizenship to register. And then going forward, once that's verified, you just need to prove that you are you going forward when you go to vote. Right.
And that's the part the Democrats are being completely disingenuous about, because they make it sound like you've got to bring your passport, your birth certificate, especially if you're a woman, copy of your marriage license, and the DNA and blood type of your firstborn child to be able to vote. Not to register to vote, but to actually go to the polling place. They're acting like you need all of these things. And Tracy, you can start talking about how we look when you put down the Pringles and get off the couch. Okay.
Tracy, you stooping to that level. Oh, that's sad. You got nothing to say, but you got to stoop to that level. This is, as Galloway said, one of those 80-20 issues out there. And it's not just us saying it. It's CNN.
Just so people understand, is the idea that someone shows a photo ID when they go to vote, when they go to cast their actual ballot, because there's a separate discussion right now about needing a passport or a birth certificate to register to vote, but the polling is all on voter ID showing an ID to vote.
Showing a photo ID to vote. And the American people are with Nicki Minaj. Because what are we talking about here?
Yeah, by the way, did you guys see that whole Nicki Minaj thing?
Oh, yeah, it was awesome.
Ross, should I play that clip to give context to our people about what's going on with that?
You should definitely play it. We got Nicki Minaj. You got to play that.
Please do.
Saying they may press forward and try to push this act forward that's passed the House. Take a listen to the polling on voter ID.
Okay, we're going to skip over that because I don't want to ruin it. I want to get to this part right here.
What sensible, forward-thinking, cutting-edge leading nation is having a debate on whether or not there should be voter ID? Like, question mark. They're actually fighting not to have people present ID while voting for your leaders. Do you get it? Do you get it now?
We won, Nicki Minaj. We won. Oh my goodness. It's amazing.
Now they're just disowning her, so it doesn't
matter.
matter.
No, listen. Honestly, I could give a shit what celebrities think about anything. But other people seem to care about that. So when Nicki Minaj I gotta get his name right one day. When Nicki Minaj is out there talking about voter ID, people are standing up and listening. And now that you know that Nicki Minaj might be the savior of voter ID passing because it's so popular, let's run the numbers every which way we can, by party, duration of time, by race. Check this out.
Take a look here. Favor voter ID to vote. Look, I got all this polling on the screen going back since 2018. You'll notice on all of it, it's all north of 75%, 76%, 76%, 76%, 81%, and then 83% in the last year of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj. They favor photo ID to be able to vote.
What about by party? What's the party breakdown?
Yeah, normally you might expect, hey, there'd be a big divide by party with Republicans really for it and Democrats really against it. But not really here. I mean, just take a look here. Favor photo ID to vote. You got 95% of Republicans, pretty much all of them, but even 71% of Democrats favor photo ID to vote. So again, Nicki Minaj posting that on X, and what you see is that the American people, actually, it's not really all that controversial. The American people are with Nicki Minaj, whether they are Republican or even if they are Democrats. We're talking about 7 in 10 Democrats agreeing with Nicki Minaj that you, in fact, should show a voter ID to vote.
Now, hang on a second here. We have a convert. Poop Guy is okay with ID, but a driver's license should be enough. Hey, Poop Guy, it is enough.
There's
a different standard for registering to vote going forward and proving who you are when you show up at the polls. And a driver's license is good enough, or a non-driver ID is good enough. Welcome aboard.
So I want to say one thing real quick, because everybody seems shocked that, after 2020, both of the numbers surged up for voter ID. It's because between 2016, 2020, and 2024, now both parties think at least one of those elections was stolen. So they want to figure out how to fix it.
Yeah. Here's a comment from Forever Roaming. An ID used to be enough before Biden opened the borders for 4 years, and they're finding a lot of inconsistencies on the voter rolls along with fraud. Ross, one of the requirements for states to live up to going forward, if the SAVE Act passes, is they're going to have to open up their voter rolls to show that everyone's clean, and there's going to be a federal database. I'm not sure how much I like having a federal electoral database.
I don't really like any kind of federal database.
I don't normally do, but for federal elections, right, there's a federal database for anything that has to do with federal stuff, right? So, I mean, this is constitutionally, this is within the purview of Congress to set these laws. 100%. It says states choose the time and manner, but Congress can make laws for federal elections. 100% within the federal government's role. And just to get back to some of this ID talk, first of all, Democrats, what they really want, and these are the hard left Democrats, because obviously 71% of Democrats agree with us here. What they really want, the hard left, they want undocumented voters, right? What is the point of even registering a voter if we're not going to check whether or not they're a citizen and check whether or not they say who they are, that they actually are who they are when they go to vote, right? Why register them at all? It gives it the, what's the legal term, Gene? Indicia of legitimacy, right? Because you register. But if you're registering and you're not a citizen, then it doesn't mean anything. Why even bother going through that process? And I just want to reiterate this point. If you don't live in a democratically controlled state, and by Democrat, I mean Democratic Party, hard left controlled state, like the New Yorks, the New Jerseys, the Californias, right? If you don't live in one of those places, you don't know what you're talking about. Those states issue driver's licenses not only to non-citizens, but to illegal immigrants, right? So simply requiring an ID to vote does not solve any problem at all, right? New York is issuing commercial driver's licenses to people who fail to provide a first name and are illegally in the country, right? Imagine going to vote. What's your name, sir? No first name given. Okay, here's your ballot. Like, does that make any fucking sense to anyone?
It makes no sense to anyone here or anyone else in the world. We'll get to that in a moment as well. I want to see the racial breakdown, CNN, on who's in favor of photo ID to vote. Oh, hang on.
Breakdown?
Okay, what's the racial breakdown on this, right? Because I think a lot of people make the argument that people of color, non-white Americans, have a harder time procuring a photo ID to vote. But even here, take a look here. Favor photo ID to vote. 85% of white people favor it. 82% of Latino. 76% of black Americans favor it. So the bottom line is this. Voter ID is not controversial in this country. A photo ID to vote is not controversial in this country. It is not controversial by party, and it is not controversial by race. The vast majority of Americans agree with Nicki Minaj that, in fact, you should have a photo ID to be able to vote.
Except the awfuls and the raging leftist libtards want to die on this hill. So I say we let them.
Well, it's a freaking no-brainer is what it is at this point.
It's quite offensive, to be honest. Like, if you are a black or a woman, you should be offended. Why? Because white liberal women think you are too stupid to get an ID when clearly the polls are showing otherwise. The only people are beta males in the Democratic Party, which there are still a few of those left, and liberal women that are championing this cause. Mostly liberal white women, to be honest.
Dallas Joey said, I had to show ID for a big lighter today. Well, I mean, that kind of sucks to be you, pal.
So I want to touch on something that's come up in the chat now a couple of different times. I've seen a couple people that live in blue states complaining about how much it costs for them to obtain ID in their blue states. The president doesn't control that. Y'all can fix that where you live. This is one of the things that I've been preaching now for the longest time. Federal politics is sexy. It's the easiest way to make money if you're doing stuff like what we do, because that's the stuff everybody wants to pay attention to. But if you want to actually make real change, show up for your local elections, show up for your state elections. If you don't like the fact that it costs you $40 to get an ID where you live, fight to change it. You don't like the fact that it costs you $100 to get an ID where you live, fight to change it. And if you're not willing to do that, don't whine to us, because it doesn't cost me that here on purpose, because I'm willing to go to the polls and stop it if they try to do stupid crap like that. I'm just saying. Everybody, like earlier when the CNN talking heads were we should be talking about the economy. You know what we should really be talking about? The difference between economies in red states and blue states. Because you know where it still sucks to live? You know where they're squeezing every cent they can out of you? It's in the blue states on purpose, because they're doing everything they can at the city and the state level, city, county, and state level to drain every penny from you that they can, so that you look at President Trump and say, you said you were going to make my life easier and everything here is more expensive. But they don't pay attention as to why and who's actually doing it. Look at Mom Donnie right now. He's proposing a 10% increase in property tax.
Don't get me started. That's a whole other show. That's a whole other freaking show that we'll do a video on later in the week. CG Discussion says, I am 64 and had to show ID to get the guy at the paint store to open up the locked up spray paint so I could get a can. Seriously. Well, there it is, folks. You have to use ID for so many things. Open a bank account, buy cigarettes, get on a plane. It's a crazy list of things.
And Gene, I'm glad you mentioned the get on the plane, right? The threshold to get on a plane to even fly domestically is going to be a real ID now. A real ID is actually hard to fucking get, and it's expensive, right? But I don't see any Democrats, championing we shouldn't have that to fly. I actually don't think we should, right? That's a private company that I'm purchasing a service from, and I don't understand why I would need to have a real ID to fly, right? That doesn't make sense. Are we not going to allow illegal immigrants to fly anymore? I don't think that's going to happen, right? So the U.S. citizen gets screwed over on that front, but that's for a private company. But for voting, we don't even want to have any type of ID to prove that you are who you say you are. That's insane.
Yeah. By the way, one other troll wants to say this. Listen, Mario Bobola, we're still not going to date you. So,
I think that was a typo. Come on.
Oh, sure. Because the A and the U are so close to each other on the keyboard. Just take a look in front of you. Now, you, Mr. Galloway, Ross Galloway, you brought up how everyone has been arguing how voter ID is racist, it's sexist, it's all this stuff, but let's take a look at this. This is from back in, I think, 2008. And there is the first black president showing up to the polls and presenting ID when he's going to vote.
But I was told that was impossible because, they're not intelligent enough.
It's according to Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, at least Chuck Schumer these days, he says that this whole voter ID Save Act thing is Jim Crow 2.0.
This talk about election security has revived discussions of the SAVE Act, which you have said you oppose. Proponents of it say that it's, to have ID, you have to prove U.S. citizenship to be able to vote. Though some of the claims they make, to be clear, are overstated. We know there's not widespread election fraud. But polling does suggest, there's a new Pew Research poll, that 95% of Republicans, but also 71% of Democrats like this idea. So why do you not?
It's Jim Crow 2.0. And I called it Jim Crow 2.0, and the right wing went nuts all over the internet. That's because they know it's true. What they're trying to do here is the same thing that was done in the South for decades to prevent people of color from voting. For instance, if you change, you're a woman who got married and changed your last name, you won't be able to show ID and you'll be discriminated against. If you can't find a birth certificate or a proper ID, you'll be discriminated against. This is vicious and nasty. And I said to our Republican colleagues, it will not pass the Senate. You will not get a single Democratic vote in the Senate. We're not reviving Jim Crow all over the country.
The soft bigotry of low expectations. Sunrider out here saying that this is all just a circle, you know what. Why not bring someone on to contest your nonsense and tackle substance? I challenge you to please come and tell me what substance you want to challenge. Have you read the studies from American University? Have you read the Crawford case and John Paul Stevens' decision? Have you looked at the paper put out by former President Jimmy Carter and former Secretary of State James Baker? Have you examined investigations into all this voter fraud that we have seen going on? More importantly, are you an election lawyer who has fought not only for voter ID, but has caught, flagged, and charged people with voter fraud? Ross and I can tell you, we've been to places in the People's Republic of New York City where we saw people taking ballots out of the polling place, going to a hood of a car, and filling out ballots all together. We have seen people take ballots for their wives and fill them out because she'll just be here in 5 minutes. We have seen people show up to us outside a courthouse with literally a bag full of votes saying, oh my God, I have these votes. What should I do with them? We have experienced all this. So please, Sunrider, show me all the substance you have. I'd love to see it.
You already gave way too much time to Sunrider. I'll answer it much more succinctly. We don't care what Sunrider thinks. Okay, let's move on from that. First of all, you showed a clip just now, Gene, of Barack Obama voting and showing ID and saying, "Oh, Rick was like, oh my God, I thought that could be whatever." For the record, Barry O was half white, so that might have been the half white of him part that had that ID. And then let me just touch on our little Chucky Schumer talking about Jim Crow 2.0. For you moron Democrats in the chat and listening, let's talk about Jim Crow 1.0. That was Democrats that did that. Most of you morons don't even know what Jim Crow is. Jim Crow racial laws against black people post-slavery was Southern Democrats doing that stuff. So I think it's pretty rich for Chuck Schumer to talk about Jim Crow 2.0 when his own base of voters have no idea what Jim Crow 1.0 even was.
I love how Sunrider in the chat wants to know, would I speak to Destiny or Pisco or Adam Mockler? Bro.
Who the fuck are these people?
The lefty debate bros out there. Destiny is just totally unhinged. So if you're on
irrelevant,
if you're on
how about that?
If you're on Twitch and if you're on Kick and you're on all that stuff and you got brain rot, those are the people that a lot of these young Dems are looking up to, including. Let me find this clip. Oh my goodness, I have to find this one. Let's talk about all the young people on that side of the aisle going absolutely crazy over there. Oh, I got to delete some stuff here before I can get that in. So let me just delete this. And by the way, while I'm doing all this stuff, folks, please remember to like the stream, share it with your friends, subscribe to the channel. I see a lot of you doing it already, and I really appreciate it. I got to find this clip because this clip is just too funny. This is, you know those stupid people on X, Rick, like the Harry Sissons and whatever. This is Chris Mowry absolutely losing it over voter ID. Let me get this up on the screen.
pass the SAVE Act because there's no problem with our elections. You are in the middle of a massive disinformation campaign by the President of the United States and our foreign adversaries to convince you there's some massive problem with our elections, with our democracy. There's fraud. The 2020 election was stolen. All nonsensical garbage that you believe because you have the IQ of a small animal. The only thing that they get out of convincing you to pass this bill is it makes it harder for people to vote. And when
Look at this little boy crashing out. It's so funny. There's nothing wrong with our elections. People weren't saying that back in 2016 when Trump won. They weren't saying it in 2024 when Trump won. And they ignored us in 2020. I know.
Sorry,
I'm just sorry. But hey, Sunflyer, is this your hero?
we don't need to pass the SAVE Act because there's no problem with our elections. You are in the middle of a massive disinformation campaign.
From QAnon to BlueAnon, folks. There is nothing wrong. Nothing to see here. It's all a big distraction. It's all just a big distraction. By the way, folks, we're picking out random chatters and people who like us, people who hate us, whatever the case may be. If you want to guarantee that your chat shows up on the screen, consider doing a super chat. We will definitely put every single super chat up on the screen. If you want to be one of those people and you support the channel, it's another great way to do it. Feel free to do it. We'll still keep picking up everybody we want to here. Burf saying that Maori is a Democrat talking point jukebox. That's a great description. I might, hey Burr F 1963. I might steal that from you. I'll give you credit, but I might steal it from you.
Isn't it funny though that they always claim like there's no need to legislate these things because it never happens? Okay, so what's the problem with legislating it then? Right? What are they worried about? If you believe that non-citizens are not voting, then what is the fucking problem with us requiring you to prove that you are a citizen before you vote? Right? And if you feel so strongly that the federal government should not track any of your information, then why, when we want to exercise our Second Amendment rights, do we have to prove who we are and go through a background check? Right? We don't do that when you're going to vote, right? But why do we do it when you exercise a constitutional right that is one of the first 10 amendments?
Yeah. Well, CNN loves to give airspace to people like Sunrider and Chris Mowry and Chuck Schumer. But when you get down to it and you start asking a basic question like, okay, the SAVE Act is racist and against women and all this stuff. How so? You never get an answer.
Is he taking away from black voters?
Oh, if we look at
the SAVE Act?
The SAVE Act, that's exactly what we're talking about. That is actually going to continue to disenfranchise overwhelmingly a lot of people of color. There are so many civil rights organizations that have run the data. If we look at the way that it is going to disenfranchise black voters, it's the same reason why Chuck Schumer called it Jim Crow 2.0.
So,
this is the same president. If we want to continue...
You haven't said how yet.
I am talking about it. It's the way that you're putting new poll taxes on this when you're making people have... That's what we can call them now. It's kind of an idiom, right? If you want to say that people have to prove that they are citizens, that they have to prove with a voter ID, the reality is you're layering what is a constitutional right for the American people and making it harder for people to vote in this country, and it's going to disenfranchise black voters.
Concern you that you're making all these claims? You've yet to lay out how it's hurting anyone, but 76% of black voters think we should show an ID to vote. 80% of Hispanic voters, 83% of the American people. Are you saying that black voters are too dumb to know what's good for them? I mean, it sounds pretty condescending to me.
Here comes Captain Savaho, Abby Phillip.
Voters of black voters. That is not.
Who want voter ID?
To be clear, the SAVE Act is not just about ideas. The SAVE Act is about proof of citizenship.
So what?
So it doesn't. I actually.
It also makes it very hard for married women who've changed
I was just going to say, we talked about this before. It's
voters.
not. It actually. There's an argument to be made that red state voters, women, poor white voters could be just as.
I know you think they're dumb too, don't you?
Young
I mean,
voters.
that's the thing.
Nobody
I hear these
dumb.
arguments. I've heard Democrats all week long.
No, please don't. No, you listen.
There's a deflection from talking about Donald Trump's.
Again, the soft bigotry of lowered expectations. Ross, I want to get your thoughts real quick, but before we do that, I want to address this comment right here. from Cat, what? Who cares? I hope they are paying you really well because you are getting sued heavily soon.
It's a typo.
They don't know I'm a lawyer. They don't know that I do the suing. And by the way, we don't get paid by nobody. We do this for the love of the game. We do this because this is what we believe. Unlike you want to see someone who gets paid for their words online. You want to see what getting paid to talk politics looks like? This is what it looks like.
It's the SAVE Act because there's no problem with our elections. You are in the middle of a massive disinformation campaign.
That's what it looks like.
He's too young to have a stroke. What the hell's going on there? At that point, he was like his face was matching the color of his hoodie, and that's not a good color.
Good Lord.
And
so we're getting sued. I love it.
Yeah, fuck them. Bring it on. So you mentioned soft bigotry. It's actually like just bigotry. It's not even soft, right? Because if you applied the equal standard, equal protection under the law of requiring proof of citizenship to register and then a voter ID to vote, how would that disproportionately affect anyone, right? It should proportionally affect both parties the same, unless you're admitting that one party is filled with morons, right? And that party happens to be mostly minority and women. So what are you saying? I'm not saying that. You're saying that. So defend that, chat.
Well, it's also because they're admitting that, it costs them anywhere between $40 to $100 to get an ID. So that's disproportionate. But that's not our fault because that's a state thing. Fix it. We didn't break it.
Absolutely. Folks, keep hitting that thumbs up. Keep liking. I saw a lot of hearts in there for one of Galloway's rants. That was pretty cool. So one of the weapons that Democrats will have in order to combat the SAVE Act is a plan to filibuster it. Now, ever since Mitch McConnell was in charge of the Senate, filibustering just basically means I'm going to register a filibuster and that'll be the end of it. Senator Lee, who is the biggest proponent of the Save America Act, had this to say about the filibuster. And then I know, Ross, this is your wheelhouse. We're going to get to you immediately after this clip.
Enforcing the talking filibuster isn't hard. It's not mysterious. We haven't done it in a long time, but it's allowed by the rules. We don't have to break any rules to do it. We don't have to nuke anything. We just have to say, look, if you want to oppose the Save America Act, we're going to make you speak and explain why to the American people at some great length. This has been done in the past. It's one of the mechanisms used back in the 60s with the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. It helped eventually achieve the necessary degree of consensus to get that bill passed. It took a while, but after those who didn't want it to pass were required to speak about it, and the American people continued to support the legislation, it passed. Let's give this a shot.
And in response to that, and now I'm going to let you talk, Russ, I promise, Schumer had, let me see if I can find the clip of him talking. Oh, I got to load it up. Go ahead and talk about the talking filibuster while I find the clip, pal. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I think, I've had several conversations about this, in my circles over the last few months. And it's amazing that, schools in America don't really teach civics anymore. So just real briefly, I just want to cover what a filibuster actually is. For those of you guys who don't know, nowhere in the Constitution does it say it takes 60 votes in the Senate to pass a bill. Nowhere. It actually says a simple majority vote. So in this case, it would be 50 votes, potentially with the vice president casting the tie-breaking vote, which is J.D. Vance, right? That is what the Constitution says. What the Constitution also says is that the Senate basically has unlimited debate, right? They can debate a bill for as long as they want. So the Senate created rules. This was not always throughout the history of our country. They created a rule, an in-house rule that said, instead of having unlimited debate, aka a filibuster, where people stand up and actually talk and debate, what we'll do is just say, you can just raise your hand and say, I'm invoking the filibuster, and then it takes 60 votes to override the filibuster. Not having anyone speak, not having any debate, just the way the Democrats like it, right? So what Mike Lee is saying, and lots of other people, and I've been saying this for quite a while, I'm actually going a step further and say nuke the normal filibuster or the new filibuster where you don't have to speak, right? All he's saying is go back to the historical norm of, yes, it's unlimited debate in the Senate. We put this bill on the floor, and if people want to stand up and filibuster and talk, they can talk for as long as they can stand up, right? You can have I would love to see Democrats defend their position for as long as they'd like, right? And that's all he's saying we should do here, and I agree with him. Just real quickly, I mentioned this earlier in the show, the only pushback, and this is where Thune is completely wrong, and he's wrong on a lot, is that he says that this will, grind the Senate's work to a halt because while a filibuster is going on, a speaking filibuster, no other work can get done. Here's the spoiler alert, morons. There is no fucking work getting done, right? Nothing's getting done. You can't pass a damn thing if you need 60 votes, which is not in the Constitution. So let's have this fight before the American people. Let the Democrats tell us why you shouldn't require proof of citizenship and an ID to go vote. And let's have it out. This is the fight. Let's do it. We're not going to get shit else accomplished this year. Let's have this fight now.
I'm with you on that. Now, Chuck Schumer was asked about Mike Lee's comments, and this is what he had to say.
Oh, God.
Mike Lee's argument that the Senate rules allow the majority to require the minority to stage a talking filibuster to stop the SAVE Act.
We've got to get this done, and we've got to get it done very quickly. The SAVE Act is an abomination. It's Jim Crow 2.0 across the country. We are going to do everything we can to stop it.
He just sticks to that party line, man. He sticks to that talking point. Doesn't
That's
give
their new buzz sentence. Jim Crow 2.0 is their new buzz sentence. I can't even say buzzword because it's an entire cluster of words. But yeah, it's their new catchphrase. So.
Well, I love how Chuck Schumer is against voter ID, because back when we were youngins, Galloway, he was for identification to stop fraud. You sent me this clip. You set it up and tell everybody all about it.
Which one is this one?
This is Schumer back in '96.
Oh, well, here's the funny thing. Here's the setup, guys. Back in the 90s, that must have been like a weird time. I almost feel like we are on a different timeline somehow. Like back in the 90s, Democrats like Chuck Schumer were all about voter ID. Democrats like Hillary Clinton were all for like building a wall or a fence back in the early 2000s, right? Like, I don't know when the timeline shifted to now all of a sudden those things are racist or homophobic or sexist, but play the clip. Here's what Chuck Schumer said back in the alternate reality of the 90s.
Everywhere people go, they're asked for a Social Security card. In fact, one way to prove you're a bona fide person who can have a job is to ask for a driver's license and a Social Security card. This is an anti-fraud amendment. Over where we go, people say, well, why can't you stop illegal immigrants or others from coming here? And the number one answer we give our constituents is when they come here, they can get jobs, get benefits against the law because of fraud.
Wow, what a change of tune, huh? It's amazing.
Well, I guess like somebody said in the chat earlier, I guess the party switched ideologies again in the late 90s. They did it after slavery. They did it again after segregation and separate but equal. And then in the late 90s, they must have switched again and switched back. It's crazy.
Absolutely nutty. Cats and dogs living together. Mass hysteria all over the place.
Yeah, but I didn't have that clip ready to go, but I really wish I would have. All right, gentlemen, I got to jump because I got to do my other stuff here in a couple of minutes.
Yes,
so I do want to hit on a couple of points because Ryan is pushing that party switch stuff really hard in the chat.
Sure.
People have apparently never done any research at all because there was, in fact, no party switch, as in none, as in it never happened. It's not a thing. And you know how I know it's not a thing? Because a Democratic, left-leaning, crazy-ass talk show host took on a white Democratic candidate and refused to give the black Democratic candidate running for the same office equal airtime and is now getting in trouble with the FCC. And I have an Oklahoma Democrat running for state house who's screaming and yelling about how we're heading to a dangerous time in America because the FCC is requiring equal airtime from talk show hosts. I used to work in local radio. Anytime I invited anybody on from any party, I had to at least extend the invite to the other side and have record of whether they approved or declined and have proof that they either came on or they didn't. That's always been a thing. That's been a rule in FCC broadcasting since 1934. The fact that Colbert is being held to that standard on his way out the door and chose to basically shoulder block a black candidate, and he's a Democrat, should incense everybody from that side, but they're cheering it. Funny thought there, isn't it?
Isn't it? All right, you got to go back to KLRN Radio, where we're simulcasting right now. Shout out to the KLRN Radio crew out there. You guys are awesome.
Oh,
We're going to do after this.
Well, another reason I bumped in real quick is we did have a comment from our chat that we can't see from over here. So first of all, Stephen, as he calls himself, a reformed lawyer, says never trust lawyers. I think that was directed at you. And then he also said that means over 70% of Democrats support Jim Crow 2.0, according to Schumer himself. So, but
Indeed. What do you got going on KLRN before you get going? Give us a plug. Plug it already.
Rick and Orty is coming up just right about now, and then we're going to be heading over into SHR Media Land for the final hour of our broadcast for tonight. Then I'll be back doing the I'll be back doing Jen and Rick tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern. So hopefully you guys will come hang out over there. Except for those of you that hate America, y'all can stay over here in Gene's channel because I don't care.
Oh,
bye, guys.
They're welcome. See you later.
I don't want them here either. Fucking go to Rick, guys.
I want them here. Are you kidding? Take care, pal. Be well. All right. So we can round things out. We got people still in the chat hanging out with us. Want to end up with the last thing that you sent me, but before we get to that, you know how Democrats love to compare us to other nations because other nations were more forward-thinking and more progressive than us and seem to be more with it? Look at this list of countries with voter ID. Countries in Europe, countries in South America, countries in Asia, Southeast Asia I see on here as well, Australia, all over the world. They require ID to vote. But yet, we're racist, we're misogynist, we're the ones preventing people from exercising their rights. What a crock of shit.
So, I know you have another clip, but let me just say this, because I feel like I've told this story a few times. Whenever I meet someone out in a bar or wherever, and we get into like a political conversation, and I can sense it's going to go that way, I always start with this question, man, before I figure out whether or not I want to engage in a dialogue with this person. Do you believe that Joe Biden got 81 million votes? More votes than any presidential candidate in history, more black votes than Barack Obama. Like, do you believe that? And if they say yes, you can't have a discussion with them, right? Because let me just set the stage with those 81 million votes. And by the way, under Joe Biden, there were a bunch of questionable Senate races ever since then, right? Georgia flipped and a few other places where it looks like we probably won, but for some reason we didn't, right? Here's the stage. You got at least 30 million illegal immigrants in the country, right? Illegal aliens. You got millions more non-citizens who might be here on some kind of legal status. You got millions of felons who also should not be voting. You couple that with no voter ID requirement, no proof of citizenship requirement, and universal mail-in ballots in blue states, right? What the fuck do you think is going to happen when I set the stage like that?
Yeah, duh. I mean, Jesus Christ. I want Ryan's comment to stay on the screen for this one because he wants to say there's zero evidence of voter fraud. That's why 60 judges threw the cases out and Fox had to pay X amount of dollars and blah, 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 blah. Clearly, Ryan has not read Crawford versus Marion County Election Board. Because if he would have, he would know that Justice John Paul Stevens said that flagrant examples of voter fraud, quote, have been documented throughout our nation's history by respected historians and journalists, and that's the end of the quote, which demonstrate not only is there a risk of voter fraud that's real, but that it could affect the outcome of a close election. Yeah, you can say all you want, there's zero evidence of voter fraud. But history is replete with examples of different forms of fraud going on in different ways, in different places all the time. Now, the standard for, at least in the People's Republic of New York, for throwing out an election for fraud is permeation of fraud. It means there have to be a scheme, a wide-ranging scheme going on to defraud and disenfranchise voters. I'll also point you again to that New York City Department of Investigation sting operation that found people who were unregistered to vote asking for ballots, getting ballots, and they would have been able to vote at a clip of over 80% because they were just handed ballots and no verification was done in the People's Republic of New York City. I'll point you to 2 lawsuits right now in New York. One going on that was just filed about the voter rolls in Mount Vernon, where there are dead people voting, and this can be proven in that lawsuit so far. People from the 1880s are still on the voter rolls there, and it's Democrats perpetrating that fraud. Now, I'm not going to say that Republicans don't, because Republicans do. Boss Tweed, historically, Republican. To say that there isn't a history of voter fraud is just not paying attention to facts and to our legal history.
Gene, it's
asinine. And yet, wait. This is the kicker. This is the kicker. Look at that comment. You refuse to acknowledge truth in facts. I just literally gave you precedent, legal precedent from the Supreme Court on down, from the 19th century to the 21st century, my friend. You're a fucking moron.
Well, Ryan earlier said something like, there's no voter fraud. It doesn't exist. There's only like 0.003% voter fraud. Okay, dude, when you say there's no evidence and then you say a number higher than 0, there is in fact evidence, right? We talked about it earlier in the show. They're not really investigating it. 10 years ago, you might have said something like, there's no evidence of daycare fraud in the Somali community in Minnesota. But there's a whole lot of it, right? Because we started looking, right? There's fraud. We know there's fraud because of stories that Gene just told. They keep finding it, right? It's just real hard to prove because after the fact, there's not a videotape of someone voting, casting a vote, and we can track that ballot back to them, proof beyond a reasonable doubt that they in fact registered knowingly casting an illegal vote. Very hard to fucking do, right? But here's the thing, and I know we have that clip in the hopper. Yes. Nothing can stop what is coming, right? Because I do believe that there is lots of domestic voter fraud. I also believe there's lots of foreign interference in our voting system. Now, you could say Fox had to pay a lot of money, to settle a case. Shame on them if they did do that, because when you have voting machines connected to the internet, and you have people like Maduro in Venezuela, who, by the way, is sitting in a U.S. jail currently, probably singing like a bird, that admitted to messing up elections in his own country using voting machines connected to the internet. I think that we're going to find out a lot this year, and I think it's going to be perfectly timed to play out during a standing filibuster if Lee and company can get that going.
You want me to play that clip now?
I think we should.
A bunch of lazy senators who want to threaten the filibuster and not get off their feet and talk and really represent the people and stand for what they believe in. And all the American people are asking John Thune to do is to restore the Senate to the way it used to work before Mitch McConnell's lazy filibuster ideas kind of came into play. And I think that the American people are going to be there. Here's what I think is going to happen, Dan. And I think you probably know some of this because you had a foresight into some of the things that the Bureau now knows that was kept from the American public. I think Donald Trump is going to change the narrative in America. I think he's going to change some senators' minds, and he's going to do it by revealing some of the things that Chris Wray and that the Chris Krebs and other major officials who were in charge of the integrity of our elections and who told us it was a perfect election in 2020. He's going to start revealing some of the intelligence that was kept from the American people. And we're going to see that our foreign adversaries have monkeyed with our system more than we knew, more than those driver's licenses coming into Chicago that you helped get all of us to understand about a few months ago, about China sending fake driver's licenses to help Joe Biden in. There are going to be significant efforts by foreign powers, some friends, some enemies, that were trying to meddle in the system, and they got pretty far down that path. And I think when senators realized their state could have been targeted, when senators realized that the intention of the identities of some of their voters might have been assumed, I think there's going to be a different debate in America. And I think if the president takes the time to educate people and show them that maybe the stories we got from the last leadership weren't true, I think he's going to pick off the votes. And then the American people are going to put some pressure on John Thune. and they're going to surgically implant a stiff back, and he's going to change that filibuster for this particular thing, make it a standing filibuster, make the Democrats talk till they drop, and then we'll get a vote in the summer. But I think there's some big, significant, and very troubling revelations about the vulnerabilities of our elections that the president is about to unveil on the American public.
And I think what he's referring to is something that Tulsi Gabbard was reportedly working on concerning investigating whether or not international assets were attempting to, let's say, steer the vote a certain way.
Or worse.
Or
worse. And keep in mind that podcaster, Dan Bongino, was just recently the former deputy director of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. So if what John Solomon was saying was completely out of left field and crazy, Bongino might have said something. But Bongino didn't say anything, right? He let that go onto his show unchallenged. And I wonder why. Because Bongino knows. He knows what's coming. Nothing can stop it. So people like Ryan and these other turds in the chat, buckle up, losers. The truth is coming, and you ain't going to fucking like it.
I think it's time to stomp some trolls. What do you think?
Stomp them out, these losers.
All right, trolls, this is your moment. Say whatever you want to say. If it tickles our fancy, we'll put it on the screen, and we will see whether or not you qualify as a troll worth our attention. Do you see anything on the chats right now that are worth your attention?
I would just put Ryan up 24/7.
I mean, we could do that, but that would make his head just grow too much. I did see one comment from Antifa U. I want to put this up. So there's a video of an elected official in Florida voting multiple times, but you won't talk about that one. Fuck you, we will. By the way, just so you know, Antifa U, when colleagues don't show up to vote in Florida, there is a rule in place that allows a present member of the body to vote on their behalf. Did you know that? I knew that, but you still chose to make that dumb comment.
And not only that, I dropped this in the chat. I think Randy Fine is scum, right? Like, I don't like him. I am not a Republican pom-pom cheerleader. I don't like the Republican Party. I actually despise them.
The whole Randy Fine thing I can care less about, because what did he say? That Muslim families want to ban dogs and he'd rather have dogs in his life? I'm a dog owner.
I mean, I agree with him on that, but as far as like me liking the guy, he has a lot of, very pro-Israel, before America stances that I'm not too crazy about. So he's on the team for now, right? But I'm not crazy about him. I would never give him money or go campaign for him. If you listen to the show, I don't like the Republican Party. I think John Thune's a pussy, and a lot of other Republicans suck ass too. I'm a Trump guy. That's it.
Why did he look around? Are you assuming that looking around means that you're guilty of something, that is nefarious? Maybe he was looking around for his colleagues to see if they were present, because then he would be authorized to do what he did. He could have been looking for his colleagues. But you automatically assume something nefarious. Blue Anon.
Yeah, but who's even defending him? If that's illegal, throw him in jail. I don't give a fuck about mine.
Bring the charges. Bring the charges now. Do it. I love it. I'm on the side of law and order. Do it right now. Oh, see, Ryan wants to make the list because he wants to call us incels.
What is that anyway? I've heard that term.
I don't know, but what shows that you are more of a loser? The fact that we put on a show and put ourselves out there with the men in the arena, or that Ryan keeps coming back to us every week to lick our soles of our shoes?
Oh, he's definitely upset.
You're coming back to us, man. Why are you here doing it?
Listen, Gene is all about building the audience. I'm not. Ryan, you can leave whenever you want.
Listen, you had your moment. Only a couple of you stepped up. It's a shame because we got the music going and everything, but I don't know. You chose to squander your opportunity.
I gotta look up what a fucking incel is now. I don't even know what that means.
Oh, it's one of those buzzwords out there talking about people that are like, socially awkward, sexually awkward, whatever it is. You feel free to look it up. It describes Ryan is what it does.
Yeah.
But I digress.
Put your face on YouTube, Ryan. Come on. You come on next week.
All right, listen, it's final thought time. So we got to get the hell out of here. What's your final thought there, my friend? Anything you want to talk about?
Yeah, I got something I want to say, man. I want to get this off my chest real quick.
Mm-hmm.
What's the name of this lady that got kidnapped?
Nancy Guthrie.
I don't give a fuck about her. I don't even remember her name. Like, I wish that they would stop putting this on television because I don't care, right? She's an old white lady from some other state that got kidnapped.
No.
It's terrible, but I don't care.
I care.
That's my final thought.
I care. I care that somebody's mother is missing. Of course I care. You would too if it was someone that you knew.
Yeah, if I knew her, I don't care. There's plenty of people that got kidnapped. I don't want to see this 24/7 on my television.
All right. Well, listen, my final thought is we tried to warn you. We tried to warn you all throughout the summer of 25 about Zohran Mamdani and how his policies were going to be crashing down within a year of him being in office. Well, let's stop the clock here at the less than 2-month period, and let's look at all the backtracking and all the tragedy from Mamdani's policies. First, there's still snow on the ground in piles in the People's Republic of New York City. There's still garbage all over the place. Mamdani said that he would not break up the homeless camps in New York City. Well, during the big snowstorm, we had 18 homeless people passed away. Blood on his hands. He talks about you want to get free buses. MTA just did a fare hike to raise the price of all of their transportation. Where is it going? We don't know where it's going because the MTA just throws good money after bad. We have a budget shortfall in the People's Republic of New York City in the billions, to the point where Mamdani is saying that unless you raise taxes on people, state of New York, we're going to have to raise the city's rainy day fund, I believe some retirees' pensions, and a 9.5% increase in property taxes. And people out there saying, well, that's not going to affect rents. What do you think landlords are going to do when they get a property tax hike near 10%? Who do you think's paying for it? Not them. And just today, as we are recording this, Mamdani backtracked on his biggest campaign promise. He promised a rent freeze for tenants in the People's Republic of New York City. Well, now he's backtracked at a press conference today, as we're taping this, where he said that the Rent Guidelines Board are in control of everything. He has no control over anything that has to do with rent increases. It's the Rent Guidelines Board, and they're independent, and he hopes they do the right thing. So he is now washing his hands of the rent increase, the rent freeze he promised. As we are heading into the Lenten season for Catholics like me and Galloway, we are watching Pontius Pilate Mamdani wash his hands of every single promise that he's making. And it's just going to get worse, people. It's just going to get worse. And that's my final thought. I'm more empathetic than Galloway because he doesn't care about people being kidnapped. I don't care about people in the People's Republic of New York getting the government they voted for.
Gee, do me a favor. Close us out with Ryan's last comment because it's so brilliant.
Is it this one?
The 1.3.
Yeah, okay, here. You want this one? Go ahead. Read that one and give us your response.
According to Ryan and his astute historical knowledge, a total of 1.3 Americans died for the Constitution that's being shit all over. Excellent work, Ryan. I'm gonna have to fact check on that one. I think
so. One died and then the other lost an arm. Wait, so one died and another one lost an arm, and maybe a finger. Oh my goodness, that's the way to end things up here, folks. We're gonna shut this sucker down. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us. I want to thank people in the chat. I want to thank everybody who came by the stream to like it, to give us our reactions, to comment, to share the show, to subscribe to the channel, all that good stuff. There were a lot of you out there tonight, thousands of you that came by tonight. Some to hate, some to love us. We don't care. We're just glad that you're here. So on behalf of Moron Number 2, this is Moron Number 1 saying, thanks for showing up. We are Behind Enemy Lines. Now let's get the fuck out of here and play that motherfucking anthem.
Not without electoral.
Go fuck yourself. Is that clear? this Democrat case. Strategies unfold, allies on speed, but bonds remain bold. Commitment to the cause in the heart of the storms. In the name of freedom, we're breaking the norm. Cause red state blues behind enemy lines. Fighting for the truth, feels like wartime. Don't back down, keep it rugged and raw. Cool in the chaos, we're loud in this war. We're loud in this war. Truth feels like wartime. Don't back down, keep it rugged and raw. Cool in the chaos, but loud.